Thank you. Hey, thanks so much. Great to be here. Oops, that's kind of loud. Nice to be here, see all your familiar smiling faces. It's a great conference, and I'm excited about spending a little time with you and reviewing some of the information about slowing aging, extending human longevity, never having heart attacks, strokes, dementia, or cancer, taking control of your health destiny, and getting you back to great health again. And you guys must know that to get back to great health and to never have a heart attack or a stroke, you have to achieve certain parameters, right? I'm promising you, I'm saying to you, don't have a heart attack or a stroke. Don't get demented. How many people want that? Want to take advantage of that opportunity? Raise your hand. No, just kidding. Don't raise your hand. Because look, to take advantage of that opportunity, you've got to be willing to do what it takes to achieve that. I'm not giving you a pill. You've got to earn it. You've got to take charge of your health destiny and protect yourself. And the way that you have to protect yourself against future heart attacks and strokes and cancer is you have to achieve a normal blood pressure without medications. If you're requiring medications to achieve that, you're not protected. A matter of fact, the more medications you're requiring to achieve a normal blood pressure, or the more medications you're requiring to achieve a healthy cholesterol or a healthy glucose, the closer you are to death and the more likely you're going to die. The protection I'm trying to offer you to be protected against these diseases means you have to earn a good cholesterol with your diet. You have to achieve a good glucose number. You have to achieve a good blood pressure with your diet and lifestyle, with the way you think, with the way you live, with the way you eat. So you're off the medications. That's when you're protected. And you have to achieve a normal body weight too, and maintain that slim body weight for the rest of your life, or you're not protected. So don't raise your hand and tell me it's what you want, because obviously it's not what you want. Or whatever you're doing, you've been given the wrong information. And I know most Americans are overweight. About 89% of Americans are overweight. I know people think that 70% are overweight because the conventional health authorities tells us 70% are overweight, but that's because they use a demarcation line of 25, BMI of 25. And all long-lived society, blue zone, centenarians, all healthy people have BMIs below 23, not below 25. And so it's really 89% of people that are overweight. And we have a nation of food addicts. And processed foods and highly concentrated caloric foods that rush into the bloodstream very rapidly make us into food addicts. And every person that's overweight in America is a food addict. And most of you are food addicts. And you have to understand how to get rid of your food addiction and tendency to want to eat excessive calories if you want to achieve good health. What I'm telling you now is there's no such thing as a healthy overweight person. You can't have it both ways. The only way to be healthy is to be of a normal weight, because fat cells are lipotoxic. They produce inflammatory mediators that cause cancer. They secrete angiogenesis promoters, and the word angiogenesis means to promote the growth of blood vessels to fuel cellular replication and growth. Fat cells can't grow unless they have blood vessels grow into them to fuel their growth. Fat cells are living tissue. They can only grow if they're fed more calories and more oxygen to keep them alive. And they can only be fed food and calories and oxygen if blood vessels grow and expand as the fat grows and expand. So when you're overweight, you've supplied and you've promoted the growth of a whole new army of roads of blood vessels growing and penetrating into the fat supply. And the same hormones, these same angiogenesis-promoting hormones that told these blood vessels to grow, accelerate the growth of cancer on your body and permissively permit blood vessels to grow to feed cancer as well. So fat cells, which are angiogenesis-promoting, allow or permit cancers to replicate and grow on your body as well. Did you follow that? Fat, when you have more fat on your body, it also blocks the uptake of insulin and makes the beta cells in the pancreas have to secrete more insulin. And when you're having to secrete more insulin than you would have needed if you were a normal weight, that excess insulin doesn't just promote further angiogenesis and fat storage, but it promotes cellular replication, it promotes cancer, it promotes the deposition of atherosclerosis, and it drives neuroinflammation or inflammation of the brain, making you more of a food addict, increasing your appetite. It's a vicious cycle of fat on the body leading to more serious illnesses, and those serious illnesses and neurohormones making it more difficult for you to lose weight and more difficult for you to become healthy again. We have to stop that vicious cycle. So that's what this lecture is about. It's about getting you back into great health and recognizing all these factors that cause people to become overweight, and the about 10 or 11% of people in America that are at a normal weight, right? 10 or 11% at a truly normal weight. Most of those people smoke cigarettes, are alcoholics, have depression, digestive disorders, autoimmune diseases, occult cancers, or some emotional problems. That's why they're a normal weight. Because if you're eating American food and you're normal, you're supposed to be overweight. If you're not getting overweight on American food, there's something sick about you. There's something wrong with you. When we look at normal weight people in America and we study them, we're studying a population of very sickly individuals. Did you follow that? It's only about 2.5% of Americans that have achieved a normal weight because they eat healthfully or they exercise. Just 2.5%. The rest of those normal weight people are sick. All Americans are sick. You can't be normal on an American diet. 100 years ago, 1 in 100 Americans were mentally ill. Today, 1 in 5 Americans are mentally ill. Who's talking about this explosion in mental illness and the food we're eating? And that's what we're talking about today as well. This doesn't just make you overweight, it destroys your brain cells. And as you became overweight, you became diabetic, you're losing brain cells in the process, and you're losing control of your life. Because you're no longer in control, your brain, the primitive brain, these hormones that are dictating your behavior are taking control, and as those hormones take control of your behavior, you lose your control of your life. The American diet is dangerously addicting, and the food is taking control of your life. That's right, we have a nation of people that can't control their eating behaviors. Do you see obese deer running around in the woods? Obese foxes and squirrels? Obese monkeys, right? There's no overweight animals running around in the jungles and the forests and the woods. They control their appetite with a very fine line of exactly how much to eat. Even the predator animals eating the prey, their appetite are finely controlled. They can't overeat. They know exactly how much food to eat, and their weight is all identical to the weight of their parents and their ancestors. There's no overweight people in the natural world. There's no overweight animals. There's no overweight humans in primitive times either. Look, we're animals. Think about this for a minute. Let's take the Arctic lynx. That's a cat that eats the rabbits, right? They eat the hares, and that's almost all they eat. What if they become like a crazy overeater and starts killing all the hares and eating more food? What's going to happen to them? Well, they wipe out the hares. They become extinct. There's no more rabbits to eat. The rabbits die out, and the lynx and the cats become extinct. Nature has a very fine system where overeating calories slows down and shortens lifespan, especially overeating protein through IGF-1 and other mechanisms to speed up aging and to create death, shortens the lifespan of overeating animals so they don't live to consume the prey, which will then stop this animal from surviving into their future. So if we know how we can ratchet down, turn down the lifespan of animals, just feed them more calories, especially give them protein. Protein is the most important and critical regulator of lifespan. The more protein you eat, the shorter your lifespan. The less protein you eat, the longer your lifespan. Do you got that? So here's this predatory animal this carnivore eating excess rabbits, maybe not enough to get overweight, but as soon as they start to eat a little excess, their lifespan gets shortened and their genetic code gets altered. Their genetic code gets altered because it's not enough to shorten their lifespan to stop them overeating. We have to shorten the lifespan of their children and their grandchildren so the hares that are the rabbits have a chance to repopulate and build back their numbers again so they don't become extinct. So when you eat poorly, you don't just damage your body and the eggs that are living in you. In other words, when you're a woman that's 10 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old, 25 years old, 28 years old, before you have your first child, everything you're eating is affecting the health of your child and your future children because those eggs are living in your body and those eggs are being able to be damaged before they're conceived. It's not just eating healthy when you're pregnant that affects the health of your child. It's eating healthy before you get pregnant. When you have a baby at age 30, that egg has been in your body for 31 years since it was formed during the early stages of your development in your mother's womb. That means that what your mother ate and what during her pregnancy and what you ate through your whole life affected the health of your child. When you have a child that gets cancer or a brain tumor when they're 2 years after they're born, is that a nutritional issue? Yes, it's a nutritional issue. You might have eaten hot dogs, processed meats, carcinogens, and an unhealthy diet throughout your whole teenage and early adult life, and you could have caused damage in their children. You have an explosion of autism, an explosion of mental illness, and an explosion of childhood cancer since the start of this fast food movement and the processed food movements in the early part of this last century. So what I'm saying right now is even when you're no longer pregnant, even though, in other words, you're affecting, and even males are affecting the health. If they're whatever diet they eat before they conceive the baby, what their diet is affecting their future health and the future health of our future generations. And you know what? And when you're older and eat unhealthy, you're still damaging your children. Because your children are usually caring for you and you're destroying their lives and making that they have to now, you have to become dependent on them to take care of you, and their life have to suffer now because you didn't take good care of your life. So you have a double whammy of hurting your children when you don't take care of your health. You can't be good for yourself, and we're destroying the genetic structure of future generations, and we're seeing that happen right before our eyes. So you ready to get started with this lecture?
Yeah.
There's two types of fat. There's subcutaneous fat, which you can pinch outside the abdominal wall, and there's visceral fat that's inside around your organs, around your heart, around your liver, around your kidney, around your blood vessels. And you actually have fat on the interior lining of the blood vessels called atherosclerotic plaque, but you have fat on the outside of the blood vessel as well that prevents the blood vessel from being elastic and moving in both directions, in and out, as your heart pumps. That loss of elasticity and the visceral fat is particularly damaging to your heart, but it also is more saturated than subcutaneous fat. And it also generates cholesterol more than saturated fat. Then it's more full of saturated fat. It generates cholesterol more, and it generates more inflammatory compounds that are more cancer-promoting fat, is the visceral fat that's inside your body. That's the most dangerous fat. Sure that the subcutaneous fat's dangerous too, but the visceral fat's a little more dangerous. So here's what I'm saying. I'm saying as you diet and lose weight, what goes off you easier? Which do you lose more? The subcutaneous or the visceral? Subcutaneous is the fat that you can pinch. It starts to go off you. The visceral fat stays there. It's harder to get rid of. And then when you want to go on that crazy diet and you drop 10 or 20 pounds and you go off and you gain back weight again, then what comes back easier on you fast when you gain weight back again quickly? What comes back? The visceral fat or the subcutaneous fat? The visceral fat comes back easiest because the subcutaneous fat can only be built up at a certain rate. When you're putting back more rapid weight on your body can't put the subcutaneous fat on so quickly, so it puts it on more viscerally. What you've done by dieting, what you've done by losing weight and gaining it again and losing weight and gaining it back again, is you've shifted body weight from subcutaneous stores more viscerally, and you've increased your risk of cancer and heart disease by going on these crazy diets. Diets don't work because anything you do to lose weight is not going to be of any benefit unless you maintain that weight loss for the rest of your life. We want to achieve an ideal weight, And I'm looking around the room at all these overweight people, and I'm thinking to myself, they've got to lose weight and keep it off for the rest of their life. So to be a nutritarian, to make this clear, if you're really a nutritarian and you're eating a healthy diet, then you are losing weight towards your ideal, you're losing weight gradually to get to your ideal weight. Either you're at your ideal weight, you're a nutritarian, or you're a nutritarian who was overweight and now is moving towards your ideal weight on the way there. Did you follow that? If you're not losing weight and you're overweight, you're not a nutritarian. The word nutritarian suggests a gold standard, an ideal way to eat that maximally extends human lifespan and maximally protects against disease, and also a nutritarian diet that's designed to be maximally lifespan promoting, so we can live to be 100 years old in great health. It also is therapeutically most effective at reversing disease like diabetes and autoimmune conditions and migraines and fibromyalgia and ulcerative colitis and psoriasis. It's maximally effective therapeutically at reversing disease. And if you're a nutritarian, you would be losing weight at least 1 pound every 3 days. And if you're not losing 1 pound every 3 days and you're significantly overweight, then you're not on a nutritarian diet and you're not following a nutritarian program. Because remember a few minutes ago, I was telling you that fat cells are dangerous? And fat cells secrete angiogenesis promoters, and fat cells secrete estrogen, and fat cells make you insulin resistant. There's nobody's fat cells that are safe. They're all dangerous fat cells. You can't be overweight and have normal body and have a normal lifespan. However, as you're losing weight at about 2 pounds a week, you become less insulin resistant even while you're overweight. The insulin resistance starts to go away and the diabetes starts to go away. As you're losing 2 pounds a week or more, the estrogen production from the fat cells start to go down and start to move towards normal even before you reach your ideal weight, as long as you continue losing at that 2 pounds a week. Are you following what I'm saying right now? The caves in the wall of the cells where that holds the insulin receptors that get blocked by saturated fat, those saturated fats starts to come out of, they're called cavalins and cavins and cavalae, which are these little caves in the side of the blood vessels where the insulin comes through. And they start to clean themselves out as your weight is being lost from the body is starting to repair. You know, a person that undergoes gastric bypass or black bands sometimes can lose a lot of weight and they can still be overweight and they become non-diabetic even the first 6 weeks while they're still overweight just because they're losing weight and eating less calories. But on a nutritarian diet, it's much more than just eating less calories. Certainly you're eating less calories, but your body at the same time is being flooded with powerful antioxidant nutrients and phytochemicals that allow the cells that were hibernating and not functioning well to regenerate themselves. You're activating your stem cells, you're activating your immune system, you're activating your anti-inflammatory mechanisms in the cell structure itself to remove toxins. Your body starts to rejuvenate and regenerate and self-heal and self-cleanse itself from the flood of nutrients going into the bloodstream. It's the combination of of course, the excess weight coming off, but all those rich nutrients coming in. Plus the fact that when you're overweight, you don't have a high nutrient density in your tissues. Let me explain this for a minute. You can look at my hand with that slight orange tinge. I can put my hand into a phytonic scanner that's going to register my color through laser beams and tell me how much carotenoids are in my skin. It's going to be a very high number from all the nutrients and all the vegetables I eat. What I'm saying is that when you're overweight, you don't have that high concentration of nutrients put a certain density per square centimeter because now your nutrients are diluted in a bigger vat. In other words, if I take a cup of carrot juice and I pour it into a quart of water and shake it up, a certain concentration of 1 cup of juice per 1 quart. But if I pour it into 10 gallons, the 1 cup of carrot juice into 10 gallons of water, the carrot juice is thinned out and not going to be as concentrated. As you put weight on your body, you're thinning out your nutritional density of your tissues. And as you lose weight, at the same time as the weight is coming off your body, you're enhancing the micronutrient density of your tissue in your body, and you're eating a higher nutrient density diet at the same time, and you're transforming biologically who you are as a person. Because you're just a bag of chemicals. And your brain is just a fishbowl full of fat. That's all it is, a big bowl full of fat. And that fat becomes rancid, and it gets rotten, and your behavior, and your thinking process, and your creativity, and your happiness, and your decision-making is based on whether that fat is rancid or fresh. And the brain has a continual need for antioxidants. So when you're losing weight, are you flooding the body with with high antioxidants and micronutrients that are going to fuel the brain's ability to repair itself? Are you flooding the body with these nutrients, enable your brain? Because your brain is the ultimate driver of how much you eat. Because what you eat is controlled mostly by the brain. And if you're going to normalize your brain, you could eventually normalize your appetite, and your appetite. So subcutaneous fat and visceral fat, the point of this is you have to stop the dieting mentality, and you have to start eating an anti-cancer, longevity-promoting diet style, and you have to be committed to eating that way for the rest of your life. You know The Biggest Loser, right? They go on these crazy, exercise programs. They exercise 5 hours a day, whatever they do. Are they going to maintain that level for the rest of their life? What good is doing something temporarily? It's not going to work. And then you read in the newspaper, you have people just don't even understand. Oh, at least people they lost their weight and they gained it back again, they slowed their metabolic rate down, right? It's nothing to do with it. You can't slow your metabolic rate down so much that eating less calories makes you gain weight. That's ridiculous. If that was the case, anorexic would be obese. The less you eat, the fatter you get. As you lose weight and get closer to your ideal weight, your metabolic rate slows down, but it can never slow down more than the reduction in calories. It can never slow down so much that it could stop you losing weight from reducing your calories. The amount of weight you lose for every calories you cut back may be reduced, but you're still losing You're still losing weight from caloric reduction. And you're still gaining weight from caloric increases. Did you follow that? You may speed up your metabolic rate with more calories, so you make the increased caloric that you're taking in not lead to the same amount of weight gain as you would have taken in when your metabolic rate was slower. You may eat more to speed up your metabolic rate, but keep in mind the rate at which you age is your metabolic rate. Let me say that one more time. Make this 100% clear. That the secret to living long, which I told you yesterday for those of you who are here, and most of you should have this memorized, the only thing proven in the history of science to slow aging and radically expand lifespan of every species of animals, including primates and humans, is what? No, not slowing your metabolism. Right, that's right, moderate caloric reduction. Moderate, not excessive caloric reduction, because that could become anorexia and cause too much weight loss. And that's not good for longevity either. It's moderate caloric reduction. Moderately eating below your basal metabolic rate. Moderate caloric reduction in an environment of micronutrient excellence. The only way to radically extend human lifespan, or any kind of lifespan of any animal. And when you moderately caloric restrict, you achieve an ideal weight, and then your metabolism slows down. In other words, if I eat under my metabolic rate, I'm not going to keep losing weight. I'm going to stop losing right here because I've already got my body fat very low. I stop losing weight, and if I eat less, I'm not going to keep losing because my body is going to cut back its body temperature to save calories. It'll lower its body temperature. It'll lower its respiratory quotient, the amount of calories lost through respiration. It'll ratchet down the thyroid a little bit to save calories. It'll set into motion biological events that will stop me from losing weight because I'm exercising and I'm active and I have a certain amount of demand for size of muscle tissue that my body wants to have based on the activity I do. And my body wants to maintain that muscle and skeletal mass, and it'll do so. It'll adjust its metabolism to maintain that size if my body fat's low enough. And those biological changes that the body does to maintain its weight from getting too thin are the major factors that maximize human lifespan and enable people to live to be 100 years old. If you want to live longer, you have to eat less so you can slow your metabolic rate, so you can age slower, right? I'm 106 years old right now. This idea that you're trying to speed up your metabolic rate so you can lose more weight, right? Isn't that what people are thinking? Read these books. Go to a bookstore and get a bunch of diet books. Every diet book, how to rev up, how to increase your metabolic rate, a metabolic diet, the metabolic this, the metabolic... It's all about increasing your metabolism so you can lose more weight. That's like making a pact with the devil. You want to age faster so you can lose weight? Almost every diet is like that, right? Ketogenic, paleo, it's all about trying to shorten your life, to lose some weight, but you're going to live 10 years shorter. Who wants to do that? Or 20 years shorter? I said, in an environment of micronutrient excellence, and I'm also saying that micronutrient excellence naturally suppresses the apostat and makes you want to eat less calories. This works together. Even though I said that moderate caloric restriction in an environment of nutritional excellence slows aging, I'm also saying something about the opposite to that. That means as you strive for micronutrient excellence by eating more foods with high levels of nutrients and fiber, they naturally make you want to eat less food. And this all works together because you're eating the amount of food you want to eat, but you don't want to overeat anymore. If you're overweight, like most of you are, then you're eating the wrong food because you're not getting enough micronutrients. And because you're not getting enough micronutrients, you're developing an unrelenting and uncontrollable desire to eat excess calories that can't be stopped. When your diet isn't healthy enough, you can't stop being an over-calorie consuming monster. Can't control your behavior when you're micronutrient deficient. You have to put the fat in the wrong places. And the secret formula for obesity, if you want to get fat, is 2S plus O, and that means salt, sugar, and oil. You salt your food, you eat more calories. You put oil on your food, you eat more calories, and you sweeten it, even with artificial no-calorie sweeteners, and you're going to want to eat more calories. It's going to rev up your desire to want to overeat food. Doesn't matter if the sweetener has no calories or not, it's just going to make you want to eat more, and it's going to drive your addiction to want to continue to eat sweets. I mentioned yesterday that the biggest scam ever perpetrated on the world's population was convincing people that oil is healthy for them. In other words, we have a growing explosion of obesity and chronic illness, and we're telling people that the most concentrated calorie you can possibly eat with no nutrients and no fiber, and don't forget, nutrients and fiber suppress the apostat, and oil turns up the apostat. So pour those calories from your lips to your hips in 5 minutes flat. Pour those calories on your waist, and that's supposed to be healthy for you. Take in that coconut oil, that flax oil, that olive oil, these so-called healthy oils. There's no such thing as healthy oils. All oils are unhealthy because they're fattening. Because what controls your apostat is fiber and nutrients. And because the oils are processed to remove the fiber and nutrients, you're just taking the fat portion, the calorie portion, without the fiber and nutrients. Because of that, the calories flood into the bloodstream like an explosion of calories into the bloodstream in a minute. And when calories flood the bloodstream so rapidly, it's like taking a syringe and injecting yourself with heroin. Because when they flood into the bloodstream, they go right to the brain, and they signal up dopamine receptors and make you into an addict. The high caloric entry into the bloodstream have addictive properties in the brain and make you want to consume more food. And over time, it makes you dopamine insensitive too, because even though it's signaling dopamine in the brain, all the extra stimulation of dopamine from all the high rush of calories into the bloodstream makes you want more and more calories, more and more stimulation. We're eating 1,000 times the amount of oil and soybean oil since the 1900s. And you know what? Most of the oil consumed is cooked. And when you cook an oil at high temperature, you form rancid compounds that are carcinogenic. bad enough people are oiling their food. They're cooking their foods in oil. And they're going to fast food restaurants where the oil's fried for hours, and the food, they're dipping the potatoes and the chicken wings into oil that's been sitting there being cooked for hours on end. Even the fumes are carcinogenic. And then you have the whole southern part of the United States where people are eating all these fried foods called the stroke belt. We have the most cancer and the most heart attack and strokes in the world, right in this country. We've got the most overweight and sickly and shortened lifespan and dangerous people and dangerous lifespans in the whole world right here in this country. Thought we're supposed to be educated or something here. I'm thinking, though, it must be the alligators. A lot of alligators down there in those areas. That was a stupid joke, I know. But you have to understand that laughing and smiling makes you live longer, and the joke doesn't have to be funny. Just laugh and smile anyway. It extends your lifespan. Keep that smile on your face. Thank you. All right, the standard American diet, I always say, this is a diet well designed by ISIS to kill us. Divided into 3 categories: processed foods, animal products, and processed foods and animal products do not contain antioxidants and phytochemicals. There's no significant nutrient load, and there's no fiber load in there. Don't forget the fiber and the nutrients control your appetite. Fiber is broken down by bacteria into short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, and butyrate is absorbed and travels to the hypothalamus, and is one of the factors that ratchets down, controls the appetite in the hypothalamus, how much fiber you eat. Fiber controls the appetite by the stretching of the stomach receptors and occupying space and holding water in your digestive tract, but there's a lot of other ways that high fiber foods control appetite too. So we divide food into 3 rough categories: whole plant foods, animal products, and processed foods. And as you can see, most of what we eat in this country are processed foods and animal products. And I'm saying a piece of chicken is like a bagel. Why am I saying a piece of chicken is like a bagel? The same thing. Why? Right, because they both are a source of calories or macronutrients, but neither one contains any significant micronutrient load. Do you follow what I'm saying? There's no amount of phytochemicals and antioxidants, and even a lot of vitamins and minerals. It's just mostly calories without the things that control your appetite. And don't forget, as you metabolize calories, as you ingest calories, what happens to the body? As you're eating food and eating calories, you're producing toxins and poisons. You're producing free radicals with every bite. When you're eating processed foods and animal products, you're producing free radicals and reactive oxygen species that age us. The common cause of all disease is what? Buildup of toxins and free radicals in the body, reactive oxygen species, and of course advanced glycation end products. There's other toxins too that age us, but the 2 main classifications of toxins that age us and create chronic disease are free radicals or reactive oxygen species, right? And advanced glycation end products, which age tissues by having glucose moieties being binding onto proteins and cells. Put those together, we have what ages and causes disease. When a diabetic becomes blind, right, due to diabetic retinopathy, it's the buildup of those AGEs in the neural tissues that cause, they develop nerve damage in their legs, they go kidney failure. It's always the same thing. It's the buildup of free radicals and advanced glycation end products into their tissues that are causing these symptoms to occur. But they occur in people who are not diabetic, though at a slower rate. But here's what I'm saying. As you consume calories, you're always forming toxic substances like free radicals. The more calories you consume, the more toxic substances you're making. But when you eat fruits and vegetables and beans and nuts and seeds and mushrooms, when you eat natural plant foods, the body, those foods are supplying the antioxidants that diffuse and wipe away and take away those free radicals thus formed from the metabolism of those calories. So you don't have a buildup of free radicals. They support and these nutrients found in plants enable and activate the part of the cellular machinery to remove toxins, to enhance repair, to remove methylation defects, broken DNA, and to remove free radicals. You don't have to be afraid of free radical production or the production of toxins by food because your body has a built-in mechanism to deal with it. You only have to worry about that if you're eating foods that don't supply the nutrients that enable the body to work normally. You following this? A piece of chicken is like a bagel because they generate free radicals, they generate hormones that make you age. The chicken makes you generate too much IGF-1. It's pure protein practically. And all those protein calories with no phytonutrients and fibers rushed into the bloodstream real rapidly makes the excess production of growth-promoting hormones that allow tumors and cancers to replicate. And the bagel also promotes the excessive secretion of insulin because a bagel is the same thing as shooting up marshmallows. The body doesn't differentiate sugar from marshmallows and sugar from white flour or white rice. It's just sugar entering the bloodstream. Whether you have maple syrup or honey, it doesn't matter that there's an insignificant amount of nutrients associated with it. If it's so calorically concentrated with all that sugar flooding the bloodstream, you're producing an excessive amount of insulin, and insulin is atherosclerotogenic. It promotes the production of atherosclerosis, and it produces cellular replication, fat growth, angiogenesis, and permits cancer to develop on your body. The bagel is like the chicken for numerous reasons. You got that now? It's one reason that there's no significant micronutrient load. Two, they're both hormonally unfavorable. And three, there's no source of phytonutrients and antioxidants to inhibit the production of free radicals that age you. Our diet has to be made up of plants that are natural and nutrient-rich. That's the secret to a long life. It's not that complicated. I'm overcomplicating it, right? Because these whole natural foods are naturally low in calories, and they occupy space, and they fill you up. These foods like Brussels sprouts and string beans and artichokes and asparagus and raw vegetables like snow pea pods and carrots and parsnips and kohlrabi and cabbages and fruits like melons and oranges and berries and papaya and of course mushrooms and eggplants and tomatoes and peppers and all these foods have less than 100 calories per pound. You could be living with Tarzan, living with the gorillas. And you're eating the gorilla diet, all green vegetables, and you know what? You're going to become too thin eating the gorilla diet. Because green vegetables at like 50 calories a pound, you're not going to get enough calories eating all the greens with those gorillas. You have enough strength to swing through the vines and the trees. Because you know why? Because try just eating green vegetables to get enough calories in. You'd have to eat like a whole wheelbarrow for like 30 pounds of food to get enough calories. It's so low in calories. I tried it once. Couldn't do it. My teeth were getting sore. I couldn't even chew all day long. It's so easy to lose weight. You can't become overweight. You can't even get enough weight on your body. You lose too much weight. Are you kidding me? How simple it is to lose weight just by all these advanced diabetics coming into my facility with a blood sugar of 500. That within a day their blood sugars are low, eating large amounts of food. Because you're eating foods that are naturally low in nutrients, and they occupy space in the stomach. In order to have gained weight to become overweight, you couldn't have eaten natural foods like that. You have to be eating oil and sweets and sugar and flour and high glycemic carbohydrates and animal products, because you can't fit that many vegetables and fruits into your stomach without you getting full. And then they shuts down the appestat. You only probably get like 400 calories in per meal. You start to get full, and you're not supposed to eat till you're full anyway. Push yourself away from the table, stand up and say, do I feel anything there? Let me ask you a question over here. How's your liver feeling today? How about your kidney? How's your pancreas doing? Fine, okay, good. Here's the thing. You shouldn't know you have a stomach. You shouldn't feel your stomach. You shouldn't be aware of your internal organs. They should always feel the same. You shouldn't eat till you're uncomfortable and know your stomach's distended and uncomfortable. You shouldn't be getting reflux and lying in bed at night and having food you can't roll over on your stomach because the food comes out of your mouth and you're spitting up acid. It's crazy. These humans are nuts. It reminds me of the experiments you do on animals. Like they give the animals cocaine, and the animals, because of the stimulation from the cocaine, they prefer that to food. So they stop eating and they just eat cocaine. They stop taking food, the animal just pecks on the button to get injected with cocaine until they die of starvation. See the same thing with food. Take any animal. Works great with human animals when they're young. Instead of giving them real food like peas and carrots and fruit and nuts, you give them a concentrated calorie like cocaine, like French fries, like white bread or pizza, or sweets or candy, and they automatically take those heavily stimulated, brain-stimulating foods, and they stop eating any natural foods, and they just peck at the cocaine. These human kids, they'll just eat French fries and pizza and candy, and that's it. They've lost any attraction or desire, just like any other animal. They're not any different than any other animal. No animal is going to choose to eat their natural diet over these frankenfoods that are designed to rush the body, flood the body with high levels of nutrients, and cause brain stimulation. So of course you have a kid that won't eat vegetables now and is just looking for brain stimulation. You following this? Brain-stimulating foods destroy... it's funny because my children always could never figure out how parents tried to poison their kids. They never could figure that out. The kid goes out there, stands in the outfield for a few minutes with a glove on his hand, looks around at the bees, walks off the field to a round of applause, and the mother's standing there with a donut hole to give him. It's like, what? You're giving this kid donuts now just because he stood in the outfield with his mitt on? It's insanity. What does that mean? It means the parents are drug addicts. That's what it means, because food is a drug. Sweets are a drug. Fried sugar and fried white flour is a donut. What's more addicting and dangerous than that? You're better off with the cocaine. Next time the kid's off the field, hold that syringe for him. Here, let me shoot you up. That was a great job you did out there. Soccer, they get heroin. Not that funny, but you could have smiled on that one a little more. So one of the things I'm saying here, to avoid overeating on high-calorie food, fill up on nutrient-rich food. That's how you suppress your appetite, right? And nutrients turn down the appestat. Nutrients and fiber turn down the appestat, the stretch receptors, but the brain has receptors from nutrients, and we send signals from nutrients up to the brain, especially the hypothalamus, that prevents overeating. So this is all about fast food versus slow food. What's fast food? Fast food, the food you buy in a fast food restaurant or a convenience store? Sure, food that's fast. Food that's fast that can come out of a bag or a bottle. You could drink it down like a soda. You can open up a bag of potato chips. You can rip open that bag of ring-dings or whatever they're called. Ding-dings, ding-dongs, ring-dongs, whatever they're called. You can eat those foods really fast. They're digested fast. They absorb into the bloodstream fast. They're super heavily flavored with sugar. They're highly palatable. They have no fiber. They're digested very rapidly. They flood the body really rapidly. They grow the brain rapidly. And you want more. Next day, you won't even want to think of what you're doing. While you're driving the car, it just goes automatically. Right away, it just goes to Drunken Donuts or to McCancer or Burger Hut. Pizza King, whatever they're called. Cancer King, I don't know. You see, an example of fast foods, or foods that are digested and absorbed fast with no nutrients in them, are oil and white flour, right? The typical poisons people eat. Poison themselves with white flour products. And then an example of slow foods that instead of entering the bloodstream at like 30 to 50 calories a minute, they enter the bloodstream at 1 or 2 calories a minute, are like beans and nuts. Typical slow foods. Instead of oil, you go to nuts. Instead of white flour, you go to beans. Instead of the fastest foods, you go to the slowest foods. Beans are the slowest carbohydrate because they have the most slowly digestible carbohydrates. And they're the food with the highest amount of fiber and resistant starch. And the word resistant starch means those carbohydrates are resistant to enzymatic degradation, which means they're not even going to be broken down into carbohydrate. Some of the starch in beans get fermented by bacteria into fat. The starch is changed into fat. But the bacteria break down the starch and turn it into fat so far down in the digestive tract towards the distal end of the small intestines and the proximal part of the large intestines that 90% of those calories turned into fat pass through into the toilet bowl and don't get absorbed. So a certain percent of the calories in beans don't even come inside of you. They pass through you and increasing the stool fat. And more fat in the stool means less fat on you. Because the beans ratcheted down your appestat by those 200 calories, and you felt like not eating those more calories, and they were digested so slowly that it made you not hungry the whole rest of the day, but you never even got all those calories into you. Some of them were stolen away in the toilet. It's naturally caloric restriction. And nuts, the same thing. When you eat nuts and seeds, they bind fat. And they bind fat through those sterols and stanols, pulling fat out into the toilet bowl. So not all the fat calories in nuts and seeds get absorbed. Some of them pass through into the toilet bowl. Yes, you felt like you ate 200 calories. You stopped eating. Your appestat was ratcheted down by 200 calories, but you didn't even get all those 200 calories into you. And because those oil calories, or those fat calories, were absorbed so slowly, there was no revving up of fat storage hormones. And as nut and seed calories are absorbed so slowly, the body can preferentially burn them for energy instead of storing them as fat. If you have a flood of calories coming in the bloodstream, the body doesn't tolerate all those calories in the bloodstream. It has to store it as fat. All the glucose comes, it has to store it, right? But when they're coming in slowly, the body burns it for energy. So we're talking here about this overlying common creation of chronic illnesses from the buildup of toxic metabolites, and we're talking about free radicals, advanced glycation end products as common toxic waste products built up from high-calorie, low-nutrient eating, right? Aldehydes, ammonia, uric acid and urea from excess nitrogen and excess protein, lots of toxins build up in your tissues. And now, you throw onto that the processed foods and the poisons and the chemicals and the dioxins and the PCBs and all the stuff and the chemical, the toxic metals and fish, and then people that eat meat start to barbecue and grill and fry foods, and you have nitrosamino compounds and polyaromatic hydrocarbons and heterocyclic amines, and we're getting arsenic now from brown rice and BPA from plastic liners, and we have more toxic buildup in our tissues, right? Meat is bad enough. Fish is bad enough with toxic waste products. Even the polar bears have dioxin in their tissues from eating the seals that have become toxic from eating the fish that have mercury and PCBs. And then we've dispersed these poisons all over the world. And they build up in biological systems. And the bigger the animal, because they're eating more smaller animals, the higher amount of toxicity is built up in that tissue. And the biggest fish have the most toxins built up in them. And when we eat those fish, we get the toxins built up in our bodies at the same time. But what I'm saying right now is that, sure, these toxins age us and create disease, but they also make us overeat. They also, because first of all, the major garbage dump in your body is your fat. Your body tries to pull toxins away from damaging your brain and your heart and tries to store it in your fatty tissue. And fat swells to help dilute the toxicity of the food you've eaten. When you go on a nutritarian diet with all these nutrients and people start losing weight, they lose a lot of water weight. Because you can only lose about a half a pound of fat a day, and these people might be losing 10 or 15 pounds the first week. I once had a person lose like 18 pounds the first week on the program. You can't lose fat that fast if they're dropping 18 pounds a week and they're losing a lot of water. And they're losing water because they're losing salt, but they're losing toxins, and the body doesn't need all the water to dilute all those to dilute the toxicity, because without the water to dilute the toxicity, there's too much inflammation in the tissues. Your body gets heavier to try to dilute the toxicity of the tissue of the foods you've eaten. And then the high calories create a dopamine surge in the brain, making you want to eat more food. So you can't just eat one potato chip. You can't just have the 1 tablespoon of ice cream. You got to eat the whole bowl of ice cream or the whole pint of ice cream, the whole gallon of ice cream. 1 burger's not enough for you. You got to have a big, ultra duper, super duper big serving of French fries on top of it, and then have a big soda. But a little big soda's not enough. You got to have a super big soda now because you're a real food addict. But that's not enough for your stimulation. Then you got to add alcohol to that. And when that's not enough, you got to take your opiates. When your opiates not enough, you got to go get your illegal drugs too. Sugar and fast food is the gateway drug to more illegal and dangerous drug use. Why do we have so many drug addicts in this country? Because they started out with the food, being a food addict. And when you smoke cigarettes or snort cocaine, you're doing okay while you're pushing the stuff into your bloodstream, but it's when you try to stop the cocaine or stop the cigarettes, then you feel like you're going to die, right? That's called detoxification or withdrawal. Are you better off feeling good by keep snorting cocaine, or are you better off feeling bad and keeping the cocaine away? You're better off feeling bad and getting off the cocaine. Because feeling good means you're getting sicker, and feeling bad means you're getting better, because it takes pain to throw toxins out of the body. The anabolic phase of the digestive cycle, the word anabolic means to build up. You're building up the body. It means you're taking the outside world and putting it into you and making it into you. It means you're eating and digesting food, in other words. You're eating food, you're digesting it, and you're absorbing the outside world into your body. That's the anabolic phase. When your body's taking the outside world through the form of food and sucking it in and making you grow with that, you're not detoxing. You're not putting out waste products. You're not healing, you're not repairing, and you're not living longer because of that anabolic phase. It's when you stop eating and you're in the catabolic phase and you're burning off those calories that you ate, and you're utilizing that fat for sustenance, and you're breaking down toxins and removing them. What I'm saying right now is the body more effectively removes toxins when you're not eating food in the catabolic phase than it can in the anabolic phase while you're eating and digesting. When your body tries to self-repair and self-cleanse, it's going to do so and cleanse itself and heal in the non-feeding state in the catabolic phase. That means I always tell people that the longer you live in the catabolic phase, the longer you live. Did you get that? You want to be eating all the time? How about 12 small meals a day? How about waking up in the middle of the night and eat then too? Eat 24 hours a day. I just put an IV right in. You can do it 24 hours a day. The sicker you are, the more unhealthy your diet, the more of a food addict you are, the more it's uncomfortable to stop eating. The more you've built up toxic waste products in your body, when you try to stop eating and enter the catabolic phase, you feel fatigued and weak and shaky and even mildly depressed, even mildly anxious. You don't tolerate not eating. You're only feeling okay when you're eating, just like the only person is only feeling okay when they have a cigarette going. The minute the couple of hours go by and the nicotine goes down, they got to light up another cigarette. The minute your level of nutrients, the minute your calories go down, the minute you've used up those calories, you're no longer putting it in, you're starting to detoxify, you start to beginning to heal and repair, it becomes too unbearable, you feel too ill, and you have to keep putting food into your body. You've discombobulated your apostat, and you're not eating because of hunger, you're eating because what I call toxic hunger. Because see this curve, the glucose curve, when you eat a meal, the glucose goes up from the calories you consumed, and then you finish chewing and you finish digesting, and a couple of hours later it's finished to be absorbed, and then you get down to that baseline of your baseline glucose level, where you're not absorbing calories anymore, and then you have enhanced detoxification or repair. The liver tries to deconjugate toxins, make them water soluble for excretion in the kidney. Your body's trying to heal itself, but you can't tolerate that. You don't feel well enough when that happens because you're too toxic. You start to feel shaky, irritable, stomach cramping and headachy, and a little bit fatigued, and you feel better if you eat another donut or cookie or soda or marshmallows or M&Ms or whatever there is you're putting in your mouth. You have to have food with you all the time. You have to keep eating all day long, stuffing this monster that you've created from all the junk food you've eaten, and you're driven by toxic hunger, and your life is now controlled by your addiction to food, not by you anymore. You're not in control of your life. This monster, this detox monster forcing you to put food in just to feel okay is controlling your life, and you have to become overweight. If your diet was nutritionally adequate, and you weren't toxic, then when you hit the catabolic phase and you stopped digesting food, you would have felt nothing. You wouldn't have felt hunger because there's no biological need for calories. You wouldn't have felt shaky or weak or headachy or stomach cramping. Those are not symptoms of hunger. Hunger is felt in the neck and the throat. And it's not strong, it's mild. It doesn't So here's what I'm saying. If you waited when you hit the catabolic phase till your body burned off all the glycogen in your liver, in other words, the glucose came in, you stored it as glycogen, and like you burned down the candle, the wax of a candle, over a period of time after digestion ceases, you burn off that glycogen until it's going all the way down. And as you burn off halfway through the glycogen, the body becomes more effective at burning fat. You don't even burn much fat for calories, for energy, because your body preferentially takes the glycogen first. Most people, they're burning some glycogen, or maybe hardly any, they start eating again. They never get to burn fat off their body. If the nutritional quality of your diet is high, and you start to remove those high amounts of free radicals in your tissues, then when you hit the catabolic phase, you're not driven to overeat. These symptoms driving you to consume calories lessen and eventually disappear. You no longer are forced to overeat. And then what happens is when glycogen stores get low, it gets replaced by true hunger when glycogen starts running out. And true hunger is felt in the neck and the throat, and it's pleasurable, and it's accompanied by dramatic enhancement of taste. So come into my office, and somebody comes in and brings me a bowl of this really nice soup, and they said, "Hey, Joel, you want this really delicious soup recipe I just made? I want to try it. It's fantastic." And I'll say, "I'd love it. Thanks so much. But I'm not going to eat it now. Let me put it away, and when I'm hungry, I'll eat it then because I'll enjoy it more. I'm not going to feel like eating now when I'm not hungry." My body is already a precise computer because hunger dictates to you within 25 calories a day the exact calories you need to maintain your lean body mass. Hunger doesn't exist to put fat on your body. You couldn't have become overweight in eating in response to hunger, just like the deer and the squirrels and the rabbits in the woods don't become overweight in eating in response to hunger because they don't eat when they're not hungry, they only eat when they're hungry. Humans only eat when they're hungry too. A little kid in a natural environment of natural foods will only eat food when they're hungry, when they're young, until the parents perverted their taste and felt that, oh, the child's too thin, they're not eating enough food. We got to entice them to eat more, give them some milkshakes and give them some, cheese doodles or whatever it is. And then once the kid gets the feeling of that, then they start not eating any food anymore, not eating any real food anymore. All because the parent thought the kid wasn't eating enough food because they weren't eating when they weren't hungry. You following this? You've been ruined by your parents. They didn't know any better. Can't blame them. But you've got to stop this vicious cycle of self-destructive behavior with food. So what I'm saying here is that true hunger becomes a precise computer directing you to the right amount of calories, and you could not have ever become overweight unless you have eaten outside of the demands of hunger, because of toxic hunger, emotional eating, or recreational eating. You can't become overweight. True hunger doesn't exist to make you overweight. It only exists to protect your lean body mass, because it only kicks in to prevent the breakdown of muscle tissue for energy. Are you following that? So this is all about toxic hunger leading to overeating, and most Americans go from one anabolic phase to another because they don't like the way they feel unless they keep the food, keep the digestion going, which they can keep digestion going all the time just by eating a lot of meals all the day long, or they can just eat a lot of animal products which take a long time to digest, and they can just keep the animal products coming in because you don't get out of the anabolic phase because it takes so long to digest them. When a cat kills and eats an antelope, they might be digesting that food for a whole 24 hours or more. They don't want to kill another antelope the next day. They're still digesting the first antelope they eat. Like when the python or the alligator eats a big animal, and they stick there and digest that food for a whole week. You know what I mean? So we can go on these high animal product diets to keep us out of the catabolic phase. Uh-oh. The animal product diet kept us out of the catabolic phase. Well, that's going to shorten our life because we can't clean and repair anymore. And we're no longer being supplied by phytochemicals and antioxidants anymore. So you're learning toxic hunger is withdrawal, and stomach cramping and headaches and spasm and being irritable, fatigued Fatigue is not hunger. You don't eat to keep your energy up. Those love the people that say, oh, I need to eat before I work out to keep my energy up. Yikes. If you were eating right, you would have energy all the time at the same level, and you always be full of energy whether you're eating or not. You don't need to eat food to keep your energy up. You're only fatigued because of toxic breakdown of tissue, because you don't have enough nutrients in your tissues. You don't need calories for energy, because you can burn fat for energy. Why should an overweight person need food for energy? They've got enough energy for the next 6 months on their body. You don't need to eat to keep you. I come home from work and I'm starting to get hungry. I get a call from a buddy on the phone. They say, hey, Joel, you want to play some tennis? There's a court open up. Great, I'll go play tennis. I don't have to eat because I'm hungry. Hunger's not so uncomfortable. And the minute you start exercising, it goes away anyway. I'd much rather play tennis than eat food. I can eat food later. It's a difference. You're not going to die if you don't eat. People always say, what do you do on a plane? What do you do in this? What do you do on that? What do you do? I carry food with me or I don't eat. What's the big deal? What, are you going to die if you don't have your pizza? True hunger is a mild sensation in the mouth and throat. It's accompanied by increased salivation and dramatic increased taste sensation. Right? It makes food taste good. Us nutritarians prefer to eat episodically only when we get hungry. We'd rather not eat. And you know what? The less frequently you eat, the longer you live. Particularly at night. Let me say this one more time so you understand this. The most important catabolic phase to maintain that extends lifespan is the length of hours at night without food. And the time of day, the best time not to eat, is the hours before bedtime. You want to have 3 or 4 hours before bedtime, so you go to sleep on an empty stomach. You extend your lifespan by having a full 14 hours of no calories coming in at night. But it's better not to skip breakfast. It's better to skip dinner. It's better to eat an early dinner or a lighter dinner and go to bed on an empty stomach. Let me say that one more time, a third time. If you want to use this knowledge to enhance your lifespan and live longer, you want to eat a lighter and earlier dinner and go to bed on an empty stomach. Not turning over, not feeling food regurgitating up into your throat when you're in bed at night. Sometimes I try to caloric restrict at night. I try to eat an earlier and lighter dinner, and just as I'm going to bed at 10 o'clock at night, I'm starting to feel hungry. What do I do then? Nothing. I go to sleep. I just extended my lifespan. I'm slowing my metabolic rate. It's an anti-aging phenomenon. Trying to live longer by so you want to get hungry. I love those people that say, oh, my diet's so good, I'm losing weight and I never get hungry. You're losing weight, you never get hungry? If you're losing weight, you never get hungry, either one of two things. Either you're chronically overeating because you want to get hungry to be able to regulate your appetite of how much you're eating. If you're never getting hungry, you're always overeating. Or your diet is so poor, like with a lot of animal products, you're always in a catabolic phase and you're not allowing your body to detox. So if you're never getting hungry, there's something wrong with you. You're not healthy. You're supposed to get hungry. To get hungry is a healthy, good thing. We want to get rid of toxic hunger. We don't want to get rid of real hunger. We want real hunger to have. The reason diets don't work is because people aren't focusing on the nutritional quality of what they're eating. To lose weight safely, permanently, and achieve optimal health for the rest of your life, you've got to focus on eating for nutritional quality and for health. The weight loss part will then take care of itself. You've got to eat an anti-cancer diet. That's the only way to lose weight safely for the rest of your life. Why not just eat to live? Why not just eat to live better and longer? You follow me? Because you're going to like what you get used to eating anyway. And the last 30 years, my work is really well known for devising recipes that are fantastically delicious with natural foods. You're not giving up pleasure in life. I know your friends or your family or people are going to say, oh, if I had to eat like that, I'd rather be dead right now. Just shoot me. Right? They're your biggest saboteurs. They're right? They want to sabotage you because they're food addicts and this threatens their addictions. Some people I know are listening here and are getting this and it's helping them, and other people are like, this is annoying them. They'd rather not hear this information. You have to, I guess, be ready for it. The fact that you're here, though, means you're probably ready for it. You know? My books don't sell very well in New Orleans, tell you that. You know, it's funny, I just got an invitation to go down there and speak to a college down there, you know what I mean? But you know, people all over the world are starting to wake up, I think. How much death and dying and suffering can you see and not open your eyes to this? You know what I mean? People are dying all around us. And we have these food deserts where the obese diabetic in areas of the country without proper food access and supermarket access to fresh fruits and vegetables. So the years of potential life lost are tragic and disgusting and evil. People are dying 45 years prematurely. You know what I mean? It's destroying people's lives. Fast food kills people. This food issue, I'm passionate about it, and I don't fool around about it because this is dangerous stuff. This is like shooting people with bullets. It's like radiating people. It's like blowing them up. All right, let's review some studies here. The changing perception of hunger means we took more than 700 people and we put them on a nutritarian diet. And these 700 people following a nutritarian diet lost over 500 of them. Not all of them followed the diet perfectly, but those that followed the program, 90% or better, lost their addictive drive to overeat calories. Just because they started eating so much healthier, it made them naturally want to eat less food. And eventually what happened was, within 6 months, they started to prefer eating this way better or as much as their old diet. They lost their weight. They lost a lot of weight. But here's what was most important. They lost their addiction over time to eating those processed foods. They started to prefer eating a healthy diet over time. When a patient comes to see me in my office, they sit down across the desk, and I'm looking at this person with these list of medical conditions, list of medications and problems, and I say to them, a lot of things, but I say to them, here's what I want you to do. I don't want you to decide what you like, what you want to eat, what you think you should eat, or what you learned of what you learned. I just want you to eat what I tell you to eat. And don't decide whether you like it, and I don't care if you like it or not. Just do it. Because what you've done based on what you liked didn't work too well for you, did it? That's why you're so sick. And what you like is based on what you do, and it takes months of doing something to like it, and you're not going to like this program better than what you're doing. And you're not giving it a fair chance to see what it can do for you unless you really do it. You can't do some modification of it that you created. It has to be what I want you to do. But I promise you that within 6 months, you'll love it. Not within 6 weeks, within 6 months. It takes time to reach. You can't get well overnight. You can't expect your food preferences to change overnight. But they do change. Us nutritarians don't have willpower of iron. We're not eating bad tasting stuff to suffer with life, to live longer. We're not going around hungry all the time to live longer. We're eating when we're hungry. We're eating what we feel like eating. We're eating what we want to eat. But what we want to eat and how much we want to eat is the right stuff because we've trained ourselves to like it. We're eating what we like to eat the best. And I like my food the best. You may like your food the best, but I can have you and I can teach you how to make healthy diet be the one you like the best. But that takes some effort and time and some dedication. But it's worth it. It's not that much dedication. It's called a no-brainer. Got to be insane. Eat like other Americans. So here's that study that showed that people following a nutritarian diet lost a lot of weight. And they kept losing weight. And they kept it off. Not like other studies where people gain it back again. And when you eat the processed American diet, It affects your brain. It damages your neurons. It decreases your creativity, your ability for your brain to function and be creative and think and be intelligent. The brain is under attack. The episodic high glucose from all those sugar and sweets and maple syrup and honey, all the things you're throwing in and the white products that you're eating. It makes you hopeless. It makes you sick, and it makes you depressed. Processed food causes depression. There's a link between the consumption of commercial baked goods and fast food and major depression. Even 2 servings a week of commercial baked goods, like a bagel or a croissant or a pizza and a burger, 2 servings a week doubles your risk of developing depression. 51% higher risk of developing depression from 2 servings a week. And it goes up from there in a dose-dependent manner. The more fast food you eat, the higher the risk of depression you develop. Just 2 servings a week. Here's what I'm saying, though. What if you're one of those people who are eating fast food, and most Americans are eating more than 2 servings a week? They're eating white flour, 3 or 4 servings a day, and fast food 4 to 8 servings a week. And what about those people that don't get depressed? They're still brain damaged. Their brain is altered. And most Americans now have chronic dysthymia, which means that they no longer have enthusiasm about life. They're not totally depressed, but they've lost that real enthusiasm and happiness and positivity, and they've lost their being hopeful about life, and they just function and move around kind of like in a fog. They're not depressed, but they're not really a full human either. They're like an automaton. What are those movies where the people are walking like they're dead, and they're walking through the invasion of the body snatchers? What are those people called? Those zombies. Right, that's the word, zombies. We're fast food zombies in this country. We've zombified our minds. Withdrawal depression happens every time a toxic substance is withdrawn from the body. When you stop eating junk food, you feel mild depression, and it triggers the use of alcohol and drugs. We have a whole population of people sucking in poisons. The National Bureau of Economic Research reports that people who have a mental illness, which is now a big percent of Americans, and I'm saying most Americans are mildly dysthymic anyway, consume 69% of the nation's alcohol and 84% of the nation's cocaine. Why'd they get that way? Why'd they become? Well, from the processed foods that destroy the brain. And if you're diabetic or you're overweight, then you've destroyed plenty of your brain. You can't. There's the idea that people think that junk food and overeating and being overweight just causes diabetes and heart disease and cancer and doesn't destroy your brain just as much as that's going on. That's crazy and irrational. You're losing your brain function, destroying your brain is destroying the rest of your body. You can't keep your brain function while you're eating poorly. And the amount of health in your healthy diet affects your intelligence, your production of school performance, your economic productivity, your excitement about life, your creativity, and, of course, the development of serious disease like autism. We can't, it's what we're doing to our kids. And you know what? There's a link between higher intake of sugar and fast food before age 10 and later life criminal behavior, criminal activity, and illegal drug use. We always say that. By the way, says no other variable, not poverty, not social isolation, not bad parenting, not abusive parenting, not living in an orphanage, not economic deprivation. No other variable is as powerful as the consumption of candy and fast food in childhood and later life drug abuse. You're following this as a serious issue. Got to be insane to eat fast food. But if you're not, it's okay. It makes you insane. Now, once you're a food addict, it takes over your brain. It takes over your thinking. You just want to be a food addict. Makes you uncomfortable or anxious to try to change. Change is uncomfortable. You have anxiety just thinking about eating a healthy diet. But you don't solve your emotional problems in life by maintaining your addictions. Your addictions direct you away from the problems in your life and takes you away from solving the problems in your life. You can't make your life right while you're seeking your addictive substance of choice. You can't be an alcoholic and be the best parent you can be. You can't be a cocaine addict and be the best productive worker and be the best thinker and start to be the best writer and be the best artist and be the best person for your community or the earth or the world. You can't be the best. You're just a shell of who you could be when you're an addict. And you can't be eating donuts and croissants and pizza and bacon and hot dog rolls. You can't be sickly and overweight and expect to be the full human being you can be, because you're just a shell of yourself. When people come into our facility and I watch them recover and lose the weight, it's amazing. Their whole personalities change. Who they are as a person change. From complaining and being irritable and unable to appreciate anything about their life or about anybody else, or being interested in other people, or being able to see the aesthetic structure of the world and appreciate nature and beauty and excitement. Their whole life changes. The fog lifts. They become a different individual. These food addictions take over their mind, have taken over their mind. And the brain wants to protect remember, you're not the full you. Your addictions have taken over the bank. And those addictions, one of the most irrational and illogical reasons, self-delusional thoughts of why it's not the right time for you to change your diet, not the right time for you to eat healthy, why you can't possibly do this, you have some excuse why you shouldn't be eating healthfully, right? Some excuse. That's not real. There's no excuse. There's no reason that it can ever override why you should take better care of your health. And there's no reason why you should put it off. You shouldn't have put it off this long. When's the time to quit smoking? Yeah, a long time ago, but obviously if you're still smoking now, it's funny because I run these getaways and people come into the getaway and they're eating all this healthy food, and I start talking to them across the table and they start telling me they smoke, and I find out that they're smoking cigarettes. I go, what are you doing here eating a healthy diet if you're still smoking cigarettes? What's the whole point? Stop smoking right now. Today, now, this minute. If you're going to flood the body with nutrients, it's painful to stop smoking. It's painful to come off your diet, but do it. Why take another day of destructive behavior that may cause some damage, and why continue the damage? There's no excuse. An excuse is no excuse. There's no excuse to poison yourself. But some people need extra help, right? Because this is serious things we're talking about here. And people are psychologically destroyed, and they look to food for loneliness, and because they've been abused, or because they have a horrible life, and they've looked for food for comfort, and they've developed that illicit love affair with poisonous food, and they need help recovering from that. Sometimes they need psychological counseling, and that goes into their life of how they became so troubled. Sometimes they need some help to get out of the depression, withdrawal depression, maybe with some natural substances like saffron or SAMe or 5-HTP. Maybe they need some help. In other words, we want to make it, and I certainly want to make it possible for people to make the change to good health. And if people are struggling, as a physician specializing in people recovering from food addiction and recovering from illnesses, I want to give them the tools, the structure, and the help they need to make this recovery work, and to make sure that they stick with it for the rest of their life and they don't fall back. It happens so much that people will go on to some healthy program, or they'll go away from one place a week or two, and they'll come back and they'll just go back to their old diet and gain the weight back again. If they didn't get to solving the obstacles in their life, what caused them to be a food addict to begin with, it's not going to stick. Poor self-esteem makes doing this more difficult. People look to get, when you're an addict and when you have poor self-esteem, you're looking for the approval of other people. You live for the approval of other people. When you feel good about yourself and what you're doing, when you feel that the underlying structure of your life is based on fairness and consideration, and being an asset to other people in need, and you feel good about yourself, you don't need to go after other people's approval. When a person's confronting you about your diet, why do you eat that way? Where do you get your protein? Blah, 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 blah. Whatever. You don't feel the need. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to make this person like you. You don't have to impress anybody. Your thought process is now revolving around how you can be useful to this person, how you can have the best effect on their life, and possibly, maybe possibly, have some good effect on them, have goodwill for them. It's no longer about you. It's about them, because you don't need to protect your own self. You feel good enough about you don't have a problem with your own ego, your own self-worth. Take care of yourself first. Put the oxygen mask on yourself. Be a role model. And then get the reward and satisfaction from being useful to others. It's not about arguing or protecting yourself or pleasing another person. It's being able to be the full you so you can get the full creativity out of your own abilities to be the best person you can be. Enabling you to help other people better and have a life with better purpose and build your self-esteem with compassion. This person's, they've been getting the wrong information and they have food driving their behavior. It's not their fault that they're thinking the wrong way, they're not doing the best thing for their life. It's not you don't have to blame them personally, you just have to think of how I can have the best effect on them and really think what's the best thing to have a better effect on their life. And maybe it's not going to help them, but just maybe because you were a good example and maybe because you expressed how much you love taking better care of your health and you have and you're feeling for want them to be healthier too, whatever it was, maybe a year from now they'll think about that. Maybe you did have a remarkable influence on their life, and maybe you did help their life dramatically. But you know what? The minute you're afraid to hide afraid to show who you are, the minute you want to blend in, and you want to eat, and you want to go to a family gathering, or a party and hide that you're eating differently. You're too ashamed of what you're doing. You're looking to please other people, and somebody's wanting you, and you don't want to offend a person by not eating what they made. Or the minute you're trying to think of, your mind is preoccupied with other people are thinking of you. The minute you do that, you've lost your opportunity to have goodwill for another person. It's the opportunity. It's not always going to happen. It's the opportunity to influence somebody positively. You want to be a leader. And you want to have the mindset of a champion. And that takes practice and repetition and determination and perseverance and a correct attitude. And when you do that, this works really nicely and it becomes fun and exciting. Remember, you don't get to be like a champion like athlete or tennis player or something with little bit of effort. Has to be many, many years of hard work. But here's the thing. What if this person gave 90% effort, or 90%, 95% effort? They'd get zero out of it. 90 or 95% effort gives you back nothing. Because all the money is in the last 5%. You get what I'm saying right now? If you have your foot in both worlds, keep dabbling in unhealthy foods while you're trying to eat healthy, you keep reestablishing those triggers that pull you into an addictive way of thinking that make this difficult to do it. Once you're fully committed, there's no more stress, no more decision making, no more of the brain being forced to go back and forth, no more struggling with decisions. You've already fully decided and you're fully committed. Once you're fully committed and fully decided, there's no stress, zero stress. But then the miracles happen. Then the change happens. I used to teach ice skating. I used to tell my students, you're doing great, but you're not going to get anything out of this. Because doing it 90%, you're not going to get an Olympic. You're not going to be in the Olympics. You're not going to make a lot of money. You're not going to, if you really want to get something out of it, you got to do it 100%. But it's ever so much here, but more important with food. I see so many people. As a physician specializing in nutritional medicine, I've been doing this more than 30 years now. And the biggest disappointment in my life is seeing the sick people that failed because they didn't follow through and do this. They knew about it. They learned about it. They got excited about it. And then they couldn't do it for some reason, which you're learning about. That's troubling to me. That was always troubling to me. And I've spent the last 20 years of my life trying to help people remove the obstacles to those changes so they can succeed. So we don't have to leave people that want to change and want to get better, throw them out and not give them a chance. So the path to great health and true hunger, don't eat till you feel full or stuffed. You want to be hungry for the next meal. So how much will you eat at lunch? How much do you know how much to eat? Well, I'll tell you how much you eat at lunch. You want to eat the right amount so you get hungry again before you eat dinner. If you overeat at lunch, you're not going to get hungry for dinner. If you overeat at dinner, you're not going to be hungry in time for breakfast. Keep eating less so you can try to get hungry before the next meal. If you got through halfway through the afternoon and you're starving already before 2 or 3 hours before lunch, before dinner, then you didn't eat enough food. And if you're not losing a pound every 3 days, and if you're overweight and not losing a pound every day, not losing a pound every 3 days or 2 pounds a week, then you're overeating. I can't assure that you're not going to overeat, but I know that if you eat this high nutrient diet style, you're going to be very comfortable eating the right amount of calories. And it makes it so it's no longer uncomfortable to eat the right amount of calories. It makes it possible for you to eat the right amount with comfort. And you're not driven to try to force calories down your throat. So a nutritarian, the word nutritarian means you're recognizing that what you eat makes who you are and how you think and how you behave. It doesn't just determine your health. It determines how you think. Your ability to be a logical thinker and be influenced by and to be able to weigh information better and make better decisions. And you're not governed by your unrelenting need to be a people pleaser. You want to be useful to humanity and other people. But you don't want, but it's not about by getting more ego for yourself. It's not about how people see you. Your happiness is based on how you see them. Your happiness is based on how much you can emote, how much you can love, how much you can care for other people, how much you can care for the world around you, how much you can respect and appreciate reality. That's what your happiness is based on. Not trying to get people like you to get more brownie points for yourself. People have it all mixed up. You follow me for a second? A nutritarian tries to eat foods that are good for their body. And we're very creative creating recipes that taste great but also are good for us. That's what you want to strive for. The prescription here is to eat a big salad every day, because salads link to enhanced longevity. A nutritarian eats a large salad every day. Take out when you go home. Take out an index card and a marker, and write on the index card, the salad is the main dish, and tape it right onto your refrigerator. The salad is the main dish, and at least once a day, have a big meal where your salad is the main dish. And eat at least an ounce of raw nuts and seeds a day, and possibly at least a half an ounce of nuts and seeds with that big salad to help maximize and facilitate the absorption of those anti-cancer phytonutrients. And have at least a half a cup of beans every day. Start with lower amounts if you get indigestion, you're not used to eating beans, but as you eat them regularly on an ongoing basis, your body gets better and better at it. Have a big serving of cooked vegetables, including cooked greens every day, and have some mushrooms and onions every day too. And your mushrooms should be cooked. You want to eat all these foods every day to get the nutrients into your brain, because we want the full portfolio of anti-cancer foods in our diet, and we put the full portfolio of anti-cancer foods in the diet. That makes it most easy to lose weight and to control your appetite. And 3 fresh fruits a day. At least 1 should be berries or pomegranates or kumquats or some low-sugar fruits. So what I'm saying here is, when you're a white belt, when you're just starting out with this, you're going to feel ill. You're not going to feel that great. You're going to be detoxifying. This is not going to make you feel better when you change your diet to a healthy diet. You're going to feel worse, not better. And that keeps going for at least a week. Then it goes away and you feel a lot better. When you're a yellow belt, you didn't get rid of your emotional attraction to eating junk food. This still is not easy. You're feeling better, but you're still attracted to those trigger foods that could still derail you and get you in trouble. You got to watch yourself in this fragile period as a yellow belt in the first month or 2. But then you're doing this a while, you're a brown belt, you're getting back in touch with true hunger, which take a few months, you're better in control of your appestat, you're losing your emotional addiction to foods, but you're starting to enjoy this food more. But you get to be a black belt, maybe a year goes by now, and you've lost 100 pounds, and you're feeling great. Why don't you go celebrate at a restaurant and have some barbecued ribs and cheesecake a la mode? Well, what's going to happen if you do that? What's going to happen when you go have that food that you thought, oh, I used to like these foods. Maybe I'll supply myself with some treat. Well, now you're eating those foods, and you can't, it tastes horrible. Your taste got too strong. It's so overly salted and overly flavored that you can't even put it in your mouth. And you try to have that ice cream, and you can taste the bleach that they used to clean the damn machine, and the chemicals in it, and you don't even want it anymore, it's too sweet. And then because a little bit you had, you're up all night trying to drink water because you can't even sleep because you're so thirsty because you had those first 2 bites anyway. Because now that you're a nutritarian and you're a black belt, you feel so ill if you just eat something unhealthy, because your body becomes very reactive and trying to get rid of any toxins right away. Don't forget, when you were a white belt, you felt great when you were eating junk. You felt ill when you tried to eat healthy. Now that you're a black belt, you feel good all the time, but you only feel bad if you try to eat something unhealthily. And you don't want to do that. You get a negative incentive to do that anymore. And you are enjoying your healthy foods most. I'd much rather have my vanilla ice cream at home that I love, made with frozen banana, some macadamia nuts, with some real vanilla bean powder, and the real vanilla bean powder made from real organic vanilla beans has anti-cancer potential. I don't want, that's the best tasting to me. I can taste those flavors. I don't want the chemicalized ice cream that's so high in sugar with those chemicals. And I can taste the chemicals, and the sugar is overpowering. I don't even want to eat that. And you know what? When people do this, it really works great. Here's Scott, told you he lost 300 pounds. I have so many people that have lost more than 200 pounds. It's somewhat utterly amazing. And they've kept it off because he's kept this weight off for more than 10 years. And look at Ronnie. He lost 140 pounds in 12 months. You know what happened to Ronnie? First he had coronary artery bypass surgery with heart disease. Then 4 years later, it reoccluded, and he had a quadruple angioplasty, 4 stents placed, after his bypass surgery. 3 weeks after the stents were placed, he had restenosis, and so severe that he couldn't walk or hardly talk. And they put him on nitrates and sent him home to die on various medications. He Googled reverse heart disease, never met him, communicated with me through the Ask the Doctor forum at drfuhrman.com. He lost 120 pounds, got rid of his heart disease, his cholesterol, his blood pressure, which was high on medication, disappeared on no medication. His LDL, which was about 140 on statins, was now 70 on no statins. His chest pains went away. He has an opportunity to have a new life. He's have a new opportunity. Like Bill. Bill said, I ate all day long, kept eating all day. He didn't even see that he was obese, but he's on medications for high blood pressure and depression. Of course, he lost over 100 pounds, but now he loves the way the food tastes. You know, he's now, every one of these people always say the same thing. They always say they're more alert and the fog lifted. They always say the term, the fog lifted from their brain, whatever that means. They're thinking more clearly. This lecture today was derived from 2 books. The End of Dieting, talking about food addiction and overeating and emotional eating, and Fast Food Genocide, which talks more about the damage of fast food in underserved communities and how fast food leads to crime and bigotry and drug addiction and reduces people's human potential, and we're having a horrible, almost genocide happening to populations because we're not educating people on the importance of eating right, and we're not supplying them the ability to eat the right foods, and we're taking away their ability to achieve their human potential. So that was the book that we've talked about today as well. And my specialty, by the way, I'm just showing this picture of my retreat in San Diego. My specialty is to take people who are troubled and who yo-yoed their weight and know they should, and they're diabetic or they're overweight or they have heart disease or serious illnesses like asthma or autoimmune conditions. And they know they should do better, but they've had trouble and they can't. And they've tried to do better and they couldn't. And we've put together a program through therapy, through food addiction therapy, and keeping people away from their addictions long enough, and training them how to make this taste great, and giving them the knowledge they need, so when they're set free, they're not locked up. It's funny because I used to do this in my home. I used to have a rental house near my home in Flemington in New Jersey. And I remember one guy coming in, and he smoked cigarettes and he wasn't opiates, and I would take away their car keys, I would take away their wallets, and I would, so they wouldn't have a chance. They could walk around town, but they had no money and no car keys and no credit cards, so they couldn't buy anything. So I remember this guy came back in about 3 days later, and he said, I changed my mind. I want to go home. I can't come off the cigarettes. I can come off the opiates, but I can't come off the cigarettes. You've got to give me my cigarettes back, or I'm leaving. So I said, number one, you're not leaving, and number two, you're not getting your cigarettes back, because I'm going to save your life here. And he started cursing me out. You never saw the words he threw at me. I didn't even know they existed. So I said, you signed something that said I shouldn't let you leave or give your cigarettes back unless a family member of yours agrees with you. So let's get them on the phone and see if your family member supports you to leave. Then you can go, I'll give you back your car keys and your cigarettes. He wound up staying there because he couldn't get anybody to agree that he should leave, and I didn't let him leave. And he became one of my best friends and best supporters up till today's date. He's on one of the donors and on one of the board of my Nutritional Research Foundation, and he feels like I saved his life, and he'll never forget how I didn't give in, and I saved his life and gave him the life he has today. Right? I could have easily gave in. So I got it to before I got it. So one person was at my health retreat last year, and she lost 50 pounds in the first 6 weeks, right? The year she went home and left, she lost 150 more pounds. 200 pounds in 1 year. She would have never lost that weight. Almost every person I see says to me, if I stayed there a month, I probably wouldn't have done it. I probably wouldn't have been able to do this. And the first 3 weeks I hated the food. It usually took a while for them to rotate. It took a while for them to like it, but it took a while for their personalities to change. And here's what I'm telling you. That these people, they change as human beings. They get more friendly, more excited about life. They're able to finally do this. And we reach them. But it takes time. And sometimes people need help. But you know what? We're here to help the people that need help the most, right? And we're in this together. And I'm encouraging every one of you to put on your oxygen mask, get those superpowers of super good health, be a role model for other people, feel good about yourself, and then let's all together reach out, like we are doing, and try to help other people get healthier too, right? Because it's going to change the whole world. Because this attitude of living for the moment and living for instant gratification is ruining our political system as well, It's destroying our environment as well, and it's all interrelated. And the food's a big part of it. And when somebody goes into a nightclub or a movie theater and starts shooting up people, who's talking about their fast food diet that contributed to that? Nobody. Nobody, right? It's under the radar. All right, well, good luck to you guys. Wishing you great health and much happiness always. Thank you.